Worship Team Training Music Lesson.
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of our music lesson here on Worship Team Training. And we are sitting here again with Holland Davis, author of the song Let It Rise, writer for Maranatha Music, with a few other labels as well. And the other famous song, Who Is Like the Lord. We now have Holland sitting here to help us share some tips and ideas of leading worship by guitar. So Holland, how are you today? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. You bet. Well, hey, Holland, you are a guitar player yourself. Can you tell us what are some simple tips that you remember in worship leading with an instrument?
Well, a couple of things that have really helped me work with other bands is, believe it or not, it has to do with my strum. And one of the things that I do is I've learned to simplify my strum, almost sometimes just a straight up and down strum. Because a lot of times, as a worship leader, you're so used to starting out by yourself. You don't have a band. You get used to being the drums, the bass, everything with your strum. But when you add that to a band, it makes it hard for other musicians to follow you. So I've learned, really focused on simplifying the strum that I use when I'm playing guitar. And that's helped other people follow me. Another thing is I love capos. To me, capos are amazing. I use two capos. I use a full capo that goes across all six strings, but then I use a cut capo that leaves the sixth string and the first and the second string open. And sometimes I'll use those in combination, depending on what key I want to be in. Because you can play a song in different positions on your guitar, and it gives you a different timbre or a different sound to the song. You can make it sound more intimate, more quiet. That's something that's been real key. There's a thing called caged. I don't know if you know that, CAGED. And so if you play in the C position and you go up a third on the neck of your guitar to play C, you would play the A position, and then you go up and you play the G position and the E position and the D position. Great for capoing. It's a great way to think about your guitar in terms of capoing. So that's another thing, a little tool that I use. And another tool that unfortunately a lot of guitar players just don't use is a tuner. It's amazing how great you can sound if you just tune your instrument up. Right. That's true. And it's a
sound
simple
guys
thing.
Are applauding everywhere right now.
Yeah, it just seems like such a simple thing, but it is such a needed thing, just to simply tune your guitar. And then something that maybe isn't instrument related, but I've learned how to use my body to give cues to a band if I'm playing with a band. So whether it's the nod of a head, whether it's a way that I strum my guitar, I might strum my guitar in a way where, instead of keeping it tight to the guitar, I might let my arm fly out, and that means we're coming to the end of a song. So I've learned to incorporate the way I signal the band in the way I actually play my instrument.
What are some things that guitar playing worship leaders can do now to strengthen these areas? Well,
in terms of, the approach to your instrument, that can really only come through learning ideas and never stop learning. In fact, recently my son who plays with me, he's a drummer. We were talking about this issue, and he's just like, Dad, you need to expand your strumming patterns. And so he goes, and I was asking, well, what do you suggest, I listen to? And he says, you need to listen to Mumford & Sons, because it's a very interesting music. It's very rhythmic. But it's guitar driven. But he has some very interesting rhythm patterns that are very strong and not complicated and hard for a band to follow. So always putting yourself in a place where you're learning new skills, you're developing new sounds, listening to music. It's learning how to communicate. We learn as
Right.
pastors, we learn how to communicate by listening to other communicators.
Right.
And as musicians, we learn how to communicate by listening to other musicians.
Right. Awesome. Well, Holland, those are some great points, man. Thanks for sharing with us.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
You bet, man. And guys, be sure to look out for the next podcast episode. We're going to have Holland back for an actual full-featured guest interview, so be sure to hang with us there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you for hanging with us today. We'll see you back next time at the Worship Team Training Music Lesson.